The War of the Worlds. This is a
I
1953.
thought we were doing Paul Lynde first.
Oh, are we doing Paul Lynde?
Yes. Yeah, we're in Paul Lynde mode.
Am I reading the wrong script? Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we have the first of a couple of special Halloween episodes, a discussion of the 1976 Paul Lynde Halloween Special. Bear in mind, if you haven't seen today's subject, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
And also from Austin is Mr. Drew Edwards, writer of the long-running indie comic Halloween Man. And out now from Comixology and Sugar Skull Media, the all-new 2-issue miniseries Halloween Man, Hallowtide. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. And finally, also in Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration, Denver. I'm working. Well, I've been married for 25 years. I'm working on saying your last name. Say hello.
No. Yeah, David Bowles pointed out that Jason was saying Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration, and so now he's trying to work out how he's going to say both of the names the same, but he didn't know which way.
It's truly weird. I think when I met you, you were Julie Guzman. So I've I'm just slow coming around. Okay. Okay. The Paul Lynde Halloween Special is a Halloween-themed television special starring Paul Lynde, broadcast October 29th, 1976 on ABC. It featured an amazing cast. Margaret Hamilton, the very first reprisal of her role as the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. Also, Billy Hayes from H.R. Pufnstuf. She's playing Witchy Poo, her character from that. Tim Conway, Roz Kelly, more or less playing her character from Happy Days. Florence Henderson, the rock band Kiss, in like one of their first major, maybe their first major primetime appearance because they'd been on the Mike Douglas program. Billy Barty, Betty White, unbilled surprise appearance from Donnie and Marie Osmond. All that in a special that America only got to see one time only, and
only had to see one time.
Yeah, and yeah, in those days, there really wasn't a great deal on. So we can expect that more people probably watched the Paul Lynde Halloween Special than watched any episode of Seinfeld ever. Tony, I think in my mind, this is that you were the most excited about doing the Paul Lynde Halloween Special. I'm not sure if I'm going to lay it at your feet because this one might be my fault, but what the hell is this? I mean, how did we land on this hour-long special? Go ahead.
I think we just decided it would be fun. I don't think there's any one, I don't think anybody was like, oh man, that's the one we haven't done yet. But just because it's such a crazy piece of weirdness. I found it because of the Kiss clips that are in it. Just randomly, I think on YouTube at some point, I was like, what's this? And just like, oh my word, there was a special. I mean, so I rented it on Amazon, but it's very obviously a rip from VHS.
Yeah, there's even
from
tracking.
Original tape. There's it could have been the TV studio tapes maybe, but it's pretty low res. And there's tracking problems in it. But wow, what a piece of comedy. And you can maybe put quotes around that history. With Kiss, hamming it up, all the strange rivalries that may or may not have to do with Hollywood squares of the time. It's such a bizarre. Probably Donnie Marie don't talk because then they would have to be credited and paid some kind of SAG fee.
I wonder
when they show up, they don't sing, they don't talk, they aren't credited. It's just a weird piece of history.
Julia, I don't know if I queued this up for us. I said, okay, pace yourself because this one is going to be an endurance. This will be an ordeal. And you were like, no, this sounds fun. So tell me your opening thoughts on the Paul Lynde Halloween Special. Julia?
Julia?
We are cursed.
We
Officially.
are. Yes. All right, let me make a note of the time when I'm calling to her.
You want
Oh, okay, she'll come back.
you
So
want me to go?
yeah, I'll go to you. Okay, Drew. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Like, Julia, is that you? Are you back? No. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Okay. Drew, how about you? What are we supposed to think of this? I mean, like I know that you're an observer of culture and you're into the mid-century. Is there anything that we can glean from the Paul Lynde Halloween special? Why would somebody even watch this today?
Well, I think if you're a nostalgia buff and a pop culture buff, there's plenty of reason to watch it. It does, as you say, have an incredible cast, and of course, it is a fun artifact of the 70s. A lot of the comedy doesn't quite hold up, unfortunately. And I like all of the like Halloween themed stuff. Personally, I think I was disappointed that the skits that they kept
Yeah.
going to weren't on theme enough. If I were to offer up a critical any critical observation of this whatsoever. Personally, I think that aside, it's actually kind of beyond criticism because this is just this weird time capsule of what the 1970s was. And
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say that I think it's like a perfect hour of entertainment, but it definitely got me in the Halloween spirit. And I laughed unintentionally at a lot of stuff that probably was not supposed to be funny, and I groaned at a lot of stuff that was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
And yet I still saying I enjoyed it. So I don't know what that says.
I mean, there are reasons why it aired only once.
Yeah.
Like
That's
let's be honest.
I think I wanted to add as an anecdote. I think one of the things that landed us here, though, you were asking that question. At Anime Fest this year, Jamie and I were delighted to discover that Tony here does an excellent Paul Lynde impression, and I believe that is at least in part how we ended up here tonight.
that's
You're probably
Okay.
right with that one, Drew.
Oh my God. It's like the second coming of Rich Little. Julia, what I mean, what would you add to that? I mean, like, what are your thoughts? You know, I said, hey, be careful, this is going to be an ordeal when we sat down to watch this.
I know.
Was it an
And then
ordeal?
yeah, so I thought, as you mentioned, that it would be fun to watch, and it came on, and I was like, okay, this is going to be great, nostalgia, awesome. And then, really, within 10 seconds of him talking or whatever, that I was like, oh God, oh my God, what are you making me watch right now? This is torture. It was so bad, so painfully bad. And I've watched a lot of crappy variety shows, but this was really bad. There was like maybe seeing Betty White young and adorable, seeing Kiss. That's probably it as far as highlights go. Not good.
My thing to think about here is context, super important. My daughter comes down, older daughter, and she looks at the sets, and they're awesome Halloween sets. She's like, "What is this that you're watching?" And I said, "Here's the thing. Back in the early 70s, basically, there's only a couple of networks, right? So everybody sort of has a choice of watching kind of one of the three things that are on. So everything was made with a very, very broad brush, so that you do a special like this, and it would have stuff that in theory would appeal to the grandma that's sitting there with the kids. It would have goofy stuff that would appeal to the kids. You know, the parents presumably are going to put up with almost anything just to keep everybody entertained. And that's why you got weird mishmashes like this, where it's unclear even exactly who the target of this special is. That's just what, you know, a mid 1970s variety special was like. We open right off the bat with Paul Lynde in a very in the kind of thing that somebody needs to really spoof this. Paul Lynde is hosting a special, and he starts out by going through a goofy bit where he's confused as to what holiday it is, and his so-called housekeeper Margaret Hamilton playing herself, who is presumed to be the live-in servant of Paul Lynde, which is the weirdest fanfic idea about Hollywood I have ever heard.
Well, not just
And
playing herself as Margaret Hamilton, but playing herself as the Wicked Witch of the West
yes,
as well.
a person called right. I guess it's fair to say she is a person called Margaret who is actually the Wicked Witch of the West, living on our Earth and acting as the housekeeper to Paul Lynde. Anyway, doesn't matter. But they immediately cut to a musical number where he sings "Kids" from Bye Bye Birdie. This is Paul Lynde's like big number from Bye Bye Birdie, and he does a version of it with some kind of changed up lyrics. This is not the last time in this special that they will simply cut away to the stage and Paul Lynde will just do a musical number. And what did you actually? We should take this moment just to talk about all of them. What did you guys think about the musical numbers in this in the Paul Lynde Halloween special?
Well, I mean, are we excluding the stuff with Kiss? Because I feel like that's its own special topic.
We can start with Kiss. We can start with Kiss, or we can end with Kiss. But we'll talk about Kiss here because we're going to talk about music. So, like I mean, Paul Lynde himself. Okay, the most baffling musical number to me was the square dance number that happened. So as you mentioned, the plot of this thing, we'll get to the awesome Halloween sets, but the plot of this thing basically is it's all a framing device for Paul Lynde to have 3 skits that indicate wishes, just cool things, which is really just an excuse to say, let's cut to a skit. And the first musical number that comes along after his initial one is a square dance that is a wedding between Paul Lynde and Pinky Tuscadero.
Oh, but you can't just cut to the. You can't just cut to that because before that, just because it's the 70s, Paul Lynde becomes the Rhinestone Trucker.
Oh Christ!
And calls Tim Conway. It also gets Tim Conway makes him explode because he's carrying TNT.
Yes, he murders the first Tim Conway. Just straight up murders him
and laughs about it.
Laughs about it. I love a good joke.
I mean, poor Tim Conway. I feel so bad that he had to participate in this. I mean, the thing is, I always have thought that the Carol Burnett show was brilliant, but watching this really helped me realize just how brilliant the Carol Burnett show is, because they did every week. They did this amazing variety show that was always hilarious, and I thought Tim Conway was one of the reasons why it was hilarious. But Tim Conway could not save this sinking ship. He couldn't do it. It wasn't even funny at all on this show. Amazing.
Well, the whole trucker sequence.
Yes.
But there's so much.
Did people like okay, so I'm watching this and Jamie is in the room with me, sort of half watching it because she's working on something.
Yeah.
And she sees the rhinestone leather bare-chested trucker outfit that Paul Lynde has on as he's pining after Fonzie's girlfriend from Happy Days.
Yeah.
For some reason.
But not really, because he also talks a lot about other. I mean, this time period, there's this Paul Lynde thing going on.
Do you want to explain the personality of Paul Lynde, like the cultural, the culture? Tony, do you want to take a crack at what the hell Paul Lynde as a cultural thing is?
I don't know if I do it justice. I mean, Paul Lynde, comedy actor, in tons of stuff, but the whole shtick is he says a lot of things that are a lot of like double entendre.
Yeah.
Specifically, may or may not like it. Always on the edge, men and women, but there's so much dialogue where he's talking about something about like there's one where he's like, this one boy came over and gave him candy.
Yes.
But then he also talks about he gave some other woman a package of ding dongs.
Yeah, his Avon lady. That's the weirdest thing. So the way his shtick worked on Hollywood Squares, which is that he would do gay jokes, and but he was the only one who was permitted to do gay jokes, and that's the weird thing about Paul Lynde, is that he is in this strange small class of Hollywood actors who were permitted to a point to be gay in public, but only to a point. And that included Paul Lynde, Liberace, Charles Nelson Riley, and that's about it. There's a few others that maybe we could. I mean, at this point, this is 1976, right? At this point, Dan Aykroyd is already playing Vincent Price as a flaming homosexual, on SNL. So Vincent Price we might also throw on that group, and the there's this thing where for some reason Paul Lynde talked about this, that he was so frustrated by this that he wasn't allowed per se to be out. He couldn't like go
Right.
on Mike Douglas and just talk openly about the partner that he had, but he was allowed to sort of be this funny gay guy. He couldn't be a serious gay guy. That was never going to happen. And the other weird thing is that they occasionally insist on doing perfectly bonkers things, like having him do stand-up comedy here and pretend to be in love with Pinky Tuscadero, or talk
Right.
about chasing the Avon lady, which nobody got. So it doesn't make you laugh.
Basically dressed up in the sequence you're referring to. He's basically dressed up like something you would see at a gay leather bar.
Absolutely.
Right.
And which I mean, for
Yes.
for our younger people that might somehow tune into this, although I don't know why they would listen to this particular episode. It would be this is probably going to seem really problematic, because but that's where we were, like the only way you could have a gay character is if they were comedic but also occasionally had to pretend to be straight. And badly, but there you go.
And it's so appalling. It's just just like Can't Stop the Music. Bear in mind that happened right around the same time. That was the Village People, and the Village People were forced to include heterosexual fantasies that they were supposedly having about all the women of the Tenderloin district of San Francisco.
Can I talk about the part that I found most disturbing of the whole episode, the whole show?
Go crazy. Yeah. My attempt at organizing this conversation was belabored and mistaken at best. So please.
No, I'm just saying it relates to what you're talking about. It's when he makes out with Florence Henderson. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Because he gets zapped by the witches, I guess. I don't remember how this exactly happens.
It's one of his wishes. I wish I were a trucker. But by the way, that was a big thing, like a pop culture thing at the time. And then it's I wish I were a sheik in the desert, which was not a pop culture thing in the 70s.
And so then he ends up a sheik in the desert. But for whatever reason, Florence Henderson is like his concubine or some crap. I don't know what she is. And she's just appalled to be there. But then he kisses her, and then she's like, okay, I guess we're doing that. Which, by the way, #MeToo in a big way, but also, ew.
Yes.
Yes. But he still makes all the jokes. Like, there's tons. She's like, oh, why you have that earring? Oh, I'm a chic.
Yes.
And,
everything. It's still very just glossed over. Well, we're also doing this.
The cliche that they're going for is like leftover from Valentino, which is crazy, because now we're talking about like silent era stuff. I don't know if people were aware of Rudolph Valentino in 1976, although Prince clearly thought that they were, because he was continuing to write about him in like the early 80s. But I don't know who this is supposed to have currency with. Also, yes, there are all these fantasies of movies at the time that a Lothario ruffian, if he kisses a girl well enough, she will fall in love with him. That's just the way these stories go. And it just looks supremely absurd here when you make it into Paul Lynde. By the way, I love the topical humor that shows up. I mean, Valentino. The funny thing is, you get the impression they're pitching the skits to Paul, and they're like, okay, one, you'll be a trucker. He's like, okay, I understand that, and then you're gonna be Rudolph Valentino, and he's probably the only guy who was like, great. That sounds wonderful. But like they do a reference to Kelly Girls, which is she goes, you never know where they're going to send you when you're a Kelly Girl. That's a line that Florence Henderson has. Kelly Girls were like just a huge temporary placement agency of the time. They might still be around, as far as I know. They make references to Billy Jack, who was the action star. They make references to Deep Throat. That's mind-boggling. That was the super popular pornographic film that Lucille Ball played a huge role in making very popular among the regular. Among the what would we call the regular people, the normies. They
and
make
also the code name for the person who gave Woodward and Bernstein all the information about Watergate.
That's right. Yes, no, that's true. Yeah, that's right. There was a Rosemary's Baby joke. There was an Exorcist joke, in as much as those books show up. So there's like there's wall-to-wall topical humor going on. Witchy Poo. Did you guys watch actually HR Puffin stuff? Did anybody?
I don't know how I saw HR Puffin stuff, because it was actually a little before my time, but I definitely remember HR Puffin stuff from when I was a kid. Probably reruns. I don't know.
It was on TV in the 80s. It was being run in the 1980s.
I saw more reruns, although I did watch Dr. Shrinker, which had Billy Barty.
That's right. Yeah. Well, those Sid and Marty Krofft things, Billy Barty showed up there a lot. Dr. Shrinker was great. I can't remember the name of the actor who played Dr. Shrinker. It wasn't Jay Kolokos, right? It was I got it. Well, we'll check that out and go onto the Facebook page to say who the heck was in Dr. Shrinker. But I find it interesting that Paul Lynde's character is this sort of constant curmudgeon. Basically, he's just this guy who is constantly just grousing at everybody. He
Well, it is pretty funny though, like, because they kind of, if you've seen any reruns or you had watched any of the Hollywood Square stuff, which is kind of also what they bring back. When Betty White shows up, she just talks. It's just a constant. The whole thing is, Paul Lynde gets no respect, basically.
Right. Just trading insults.
Couldn't have had another Paul, and it's just them bickering back and forth.
Yeah.
And her disappointment at him being Paul Lynde.
Yes.
Which is just such a variety shows are just so weird. Like, there's just nothing like this.
These are non-jokes. There's no conceivable way that you would hear that. I mean, that the thing that she says is, I guess, mildly funny, but it's not like laugh. Nothing. There is not a single gag. If there is, I'm forgetting it now. But I can't think of any gags in this show that actually made me laugh. There might have been one somewhere along the way.
Well, that's kind of the whole thing that I'm saying. Like, this is much more interesting to watch as a artifact of its time.
Yes.
Like I almost would rather have this on as like background noise at a Halloween party.
I agree with you. Oh, yeah. No, that's a very wise idea. That's a great idea.
Very few things. I getting to see the mom from the Brady Bunch try to sexily sing Old Black Magic was
oh God, that was also kind of painful.
Yeah.
Well, look, the dress was hot. I thought that Florence Henderson looked totally.
Mrs. Brady, let's call her what she is, Mrs. Brady.
Looked completely hot.
Say Mrs. Brady looked completely hot. Say it.
Mrs. Brady looked completely
That's
hot.
Disturbing.
So
right there.
What we found out
you do know that Greg Brady dated Mrs. Brady, right?
By the way, he went on a date. They did not date. No. By the way, it's sad to me that Florence Henderson
date can involve a lot.
It's sad to me that Florence Henderson keeps having to make out with gay guys. Although I guess it doesn't really matter, because when you're acting, It's not like you're actually,
That's a super good
with a
point.
person that you're actually
I just
attracted
want
to.
to back
but
up
still.
for a second and focus on the fact that we now discovered that Jason. So this was the reason why we did this. We needed to know
No,
that
I think
Jason,
I think that this was an unintended consequence. Like,
Jason
oh well,
has a
this
thing
is-
for goth disco mom from the Brady Bunch. Okay,
For
I dig it.
well,
goth
I
moms.
mean,
Yeah,
among us, he's also the biggest Kiss fan.
that's true.
So
Yeah.
win-win.
Let's talk about Kiss then, because I
I-
think we need to veer away from Florence Henderson.
I do want to mention one final thing about Florence Henderson, which is that she to me is the thing that really drives home you're going to laugh at me for pointing this out, but the astounding lack of diversity in the Paul Lynde Halloween special. I mean, they basically there's I'm not even sure that anybody's Italian on this show. Maybe Pinky Tuscadero, but Florence Henderson, she was the star of a movie called The Song of Norway. This is the whitest program I have ever
So
seen.
you're surprised to see that television in 1976 was less diverse than 2018. Okay.
I'm not per se surprised, but I'm often surprised at just how white it is because there were like for instance the television version of Barefoot in the Park was on TV at the time. That was an all black cast. You had Diane Carroll and Julia. I guess the thing is that TV was pretty segregated, I guess is where it was, because I mean there is no diversity in this at all unless you count the Jewishness of Kiss. That is it.
Well, I mean, even Billy Barty, when he comes on so they can make short jokes.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
like-
yeah. Man alive. Yeah, and that might make you actually glad that they didn't include a more diverse cast, because having seen certain things like that Justice League joke.
Legend of the Superheroes. Was that it? Legend.
Yes.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Get
So
it,
some
man?
you
Yeah.
actually don't want to see what they
could've
would
been
come up with. So
so
no.
much worse.
Kiss though. Kiss representing I guess the Jewish contingent of Hollywood is here.
Or demonic space aliens.
Yeah,
Yes.
just the rock portion, I think. And I mean, at the time, you gotta say, Kiss was huge.
Huge.
I mean, if you're gonna
Absolutely.
get a band other than maybe Alice Cooper to be on a Halloween special, good luck finding somebody this huge.
They are huge, and they are a rising star. I mean, they are. The songs they do are all massive hits. I think Kiss had only founded in 1973, so they're only 3 years into it. They've only been on TV a couple of times before, and this is prime time. This is ABC Halloween special. Everybody's going to tune in because, by the way, as much as we've whined about him, Paul Lynde is a huge star. So Kiss doing what is it? 4 numbers? They are getting 3 numbers. They are getting huge coverage here, and I got to say they're great. I mean,
Kiss is the best thing about it. And it's weird honestly, because I'm so used to them being old now.
Yes.
It was kind of jarring to see them young again. Because and this, as you said, this is prime era Kiss.
Right.
Before all the bullshit really started.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, they do Detroit Rock City, which honestly is what they generally open their concerts with now. I saw Kiss in 2000, I guess. That was one of their many, many, many farewell tours, and they opened with Detroit Rock City. I think they're still touring. Am I right about that? That was a.
So. I think recently there was a tour.
Farewell tour. Sure. It was like the farewell tour, though. I think
it was. That was the farewell tour of 2018. I mean, sorry, of 18 years ago. So that just blows my mind. Anyway, they do Detroit Rock City. They do Beth. I could do without Beth. I think
I
it
like.
slows
I'm
the
one of the
show
few
down.
people who likes that song.
Oh, really?
I don't know. It's reviled by
Is it
many
really?
people, and
I didn't know that.
especially Kids fans. But I actually like that song. Although there is a video of like the literal video of that song that made the rounds on YouTube a while back, and that was pretty damn funny.
You sent that to me when we were at the Colorado Horror Festival, and it's supposedly it's Becky Chris, like on the other end of the line, as as she's just giving the other half of the dialogue while he calls home and says, "I can't come home because we've got this rehearsal that's like never going to end."
Yeah, we're recording and we can't find the sound. Which I still like the song, but the more you watch, the more you listen to it, and the more you think about it. No significant other in their right mind is like, no, it's just cool. I mean, I guess go find the sound.
Go find the sound
again.
just
Weeks,
a few more hours. I love the way, his helplessness too. I think I hear them calling, "Oh, Beth, what can I do?" Anyway,
they're
Peter
certainly not calling me to go back and drink.
Yes.
That's certainly
Actually,
not the thing that they're.
I need to point out, I know this is going to be so dorky, but for whatever reason, well, drinking, no, that they were hard drinkers. They were like way anti any other substances.
Right.
This is just Gene and Paul, way anti any substance, but they were way into drinking. That's why Cold Gin is one of their big hits of the early days. And they also do King of the Nighttime World, which is just fantastic.
It's perfect for this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean them, and that sets with all the the Halloween stuff and the bats. I mean, this is in a sense, if you, and maybe this is where we've wound up, right? If you just sort of lift out the Kiss videos and you just make the rest of it all go away, maybe you've contributed to the culture. Maybe that's a net plus for American culture.
I mean, he does get them. He tells them to, lower their elevator shoes.
Oh God!
And the great it must have been kiss and make up.
Oh, God, all of that shtick. That is just. Oh Lord, yeah.
It's so. That's what makes it, and that's kind of why we're discussing it. It's like for all of the Halloween specials that there are, this one is such a time capsule of just, you can't believe that this is a thing that happened. A rhinestone trucker drove a truck through a diner and fought with Tim Conway over Pinky Tuscadero, and then he was a sheik, but also after making fun of Billy Barty and some witches.
Yeah.
And if you say all these things together, and people go, "Wow, were you sick? Is this a fever dream?" What happened? What substances did you take?
Yeah.
But also there was Kiss. Did you fall asleep listening to the Greatest Hits album again? Because also Hollywood Squares, something happened, right? When you string it all along together, it doesn't sound like it really existed. And yet on YouTube and on Amazon, if you want to, pay money where it's due, you can watch this, and it did exist, and it's everything 76 right there.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Beamed into somebody's home at the time, never to be aired again.
Well, think about this. Wrap your mind around this. Paul Lynde had other TV specials. He did one every year, right? He did until he died, because Paul Lynde is looking pretty vigorous here. But the fact is, he's only got 6 years to live, and so he just kept doing these not Halloween specials, but just specials. None of the rest of them get talked about in 2018. Only the Halloween one, and I don't know I think it's because it's such a perfect mashup of all of this stuff, of pop culture and the decorations and all and Kiss, all sort of munged together, that make it memorable today, even if it's bad. But I'll bet you that the other ones, I bet the 1977 special is pretty bland and unwatchable. This one just has neat sets, I guess. I'll have to go
very
and watch
sexy
it.
Florence Henderson.
Yeah, that's right, and a very sexy Florence Henderson. I'm down.
Oh God, the Disco Baby song! It was in my nightmares.
Okay, let's explain that. Yes,
it's the favorite song ever now.
Yeah, so they play Disco Baby, Roz Kelly, Pinky Descaro, Roz Kelly starts the song, and whatever the song is intended to be when it was on Soul Train, and I actually posted the song on the Facebook page so you can listen to it. Roz starts it as sort of a like a chicken dance kind of thing, like a hokey pokey sort of instructional dance that white people can do. And so Paul Lynde kind of gets in there and oh, I can't even. It's it's really it's deeply troubling, to watch all of this because I'm like, what is going on? Why are we doing this song? Why are we doing also a non-gendered version of a song of a an R&B song, sorry, a soul song? I don't understand any of this. It's a good song, by the way. Disco Lady was included some of the singers from from Parliament, and I'm trying to remember now who actually recorded Disco Lady, but yes, it's terrible, truly
I
awful.
mean, it's obvious like why we're doing it. It's for the laughs, Jason. The laughs, all the laughs.
Johnny Taylor. I'm not. Johnny Taylor was the guy who did Disco Lady. I gotta say, I don't think it's intended to be funny. I think it's just intended to be. I guess they are. I think it's
That's what
hey,
the
those
kids
people.
like.
They're celebrating.
Kids
So
love
it's
disco.
yeah. It's just. Oh, there's a lot of disco in here. Actually, that's the other big thing happening at the time. Is like disco is not even ironic anymore. Disco is like experiencing its heyday, and I don't know like how plugged into the pop culture Paul Lynde was. Like I literally have no idea about that, but. Uh, you know, disco really started out in gay clubs and then made its way into straight clubs. And then eventually it just became super popular, and then it was overtaken by whatever it got overtaken by. Whatever happened after disco.
He seems to have the inside track on when they go, "Oh, you've never been to a Hollywood disco."
Yes, he does. That's a super good point. Yeah.
I think he knows what goes on.
Yeah.
I think he's got an inside track there.
Paul Lynde, come on. Paul Lynde, we get the impression, got around, and he probably put on his leisure suit and a little ascot and went to all the clubs and bars, and he was rich, so he was probably quite the bon vivant at the Hollywood disco scene. Anyway, I don't know what else to say about the
when he
Paul Lynde.
wasn't the rhinestone trucker.
That just okay. That is my final
poor
thought.
good buddy.
That's just what I'm going to say is my final thought. Then you guys can say whatever you want. This show would have been 1,000 times better if they had eliminated the stupid skits, or if they had made the skits all Halloween themed. That's my only critique. And it's as I think Drew, you pointed out, it's a useless critique because the show came on in 1976 and there's nobody listening and it doesn't matter.
I don't think anyone would watch this now without having a either Coke bottle level nostalgia goggles on, or B, they're just looking at it as some weird retro artifact from another time period. I don't think anybody's going to watch it the same way they watch. No one is ever going to engage this the way it was engaged in 1976. So to me, this is beyond criticism. So I'm not even going to try.
All right, very good. Julia, do you have any final thoughts? All right, Julia, do you have any final thoughts about Paul Lynde? Paul Lynde's Halloween Special.
I am disturbed both about the kissing of Florence Henderson and about you finding her sexy.
Oh, come on. Doesn't everybody find Florence Henderson sexy?
No.
I mean, that's
no, not even remotely.
That's really fascinating. What about
what about you guys? Okay, hold on. What about Florence? What about Florence Henderson? Do you think that I would think was sexy?
Florence Henderson
you've known me now for a long time. You know me pretty well.
You have an eye towards vintage stuff, and Florence Henderson is definitely of a certain vintage. But you're right that she's pretty. she's pretty. I don't know. She's definitely pretty middle of the road. That's for sure. The big products that she actually sold, it was Wesson oil, which is like the blandest
I
material you
remember
could
those
possibly.
commercials.
Yeah. But she's delightful. She's no Kim Darby, but she is delightful. So there we go.
She's no Roz Kelly either.
I'm not a Roz Kelly fan. I mean, Roz Kelly just
But
never.
is she a Pinky Tuscadero?
I was not a Pinky Tuscadero. I was a Leather Tuscadero fan.
No, I'm saying it's Florence Henderson of Pinky Tuscadero level of sexiness.
Oh no! Again, never a big fan of Pinky Tuscadero. But again,
as opposed to Florence Henderson.
Florence Henderson. But I liked Florence Henderson. I loved Susie Quattro as Leather Tuscadero. Absolutely loved Susie Quattro. Yes.
So why are we Florence Henderson shaming Jason?
You're right. That's a good question.
Because she's Mrs. Brady. She was our mom's age. That's like gross. It's just all kinds of gross.
I retract my comments. You're right, Tony. That was insensitive of me. You know,
I mean,
I never thought of her as a mom. Honestly,
well, obviously,
I gave you an out, Jason, and you I think you're digging deeper. I tried to be the voice of reason, and you're like, I never thought of her as a mom, but so much more.
I will break
a little Freudian stuff going on there, honey.
But
her last name is Hinton.
But whatever happens after the podcast is over tonight between Julia and Jason, that is on you, Jason, because sometimes you should keep your thoughts to yourself.
Right?
Fair enough. Okay, so Tony, did you have any final thoughts on Paul Lynde?
No, I mean, it's just such a crazy special. The same way that I think you watch this in much the same way that you would watch the Star Wars Christmas special.
Yes.
It's unbelievable or Legend of the Superheroes. Just, hey, everybody, this happened. We can't take it back, but we can learn from it and marvel at the fact that this is a thing. And, good performances from Kiss. Not too long. Around the same time they were doing Phantom of the Park.
That's true.
Which I missed it and was so sad that all the rest of kindergarten was talking about Phantom of the Park. I mean, it's not great either, but it was a big deal at the time. But yeah, I mean, this special is just such an insaniac. Add it to just, hey man, Halloween's weird. We're gonna make it we're gonna double down on weird and play this. And I think that's kind of how you have to approach it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to hear about you're sending your Avon lady a box of ding dongs, like that's just how that's that. There you go.
You know what? I just had a thought, Tony. How cool would it be? Hearing you, you clearly have this love for Paul Lynde. Can you imagine? No. I mean, like the voice is my point. Like, can you imagine how? Just picture this. Picture this, Tony. Just I want
we're
you to
learning a lot this podcast. Actually,
picture it. Just bear with me. Just picture it. It's 1973, and walking like the Reservoir Dogs are Paul Lynde, Charles Nelson Riley, and Liberace, like in Vegas, like maybe after they all get out of their show, and they all are going to go get up to some shenanigans or another, and then they have some kind of night-long weird adventure, but starring those three. Can you imagine, like, it would start sort of playing with everybody's perceived understanding of who those three men were, and then slowly get more and more real. How cool would that?
But like The Hangover, but those three guys?
Yes, I guess so. I guess that's what I'm saying. The Hangover.
I mean,
was Paul Lynde,
yeah. I mean, I'm glad it did. It could have also been. Now picture Paul Lynde in that dress that Florence Henderson was. Yeah.
No.
Because clearly you have a love for Paul Lynde.
No. That wasn't what I meant at all.
But comes pretty close with that. He comes pretty close with that rhinestone trucker get up.
Oh, I mean, that is again. This is one of those things where, because of the time and because of the way that media had to be, a large part of this, like you were talking about with Paul Lynde, he can only be kind of the jokey, gay guy, right? So this is also to appeal. The trucker thing is to appeal to a wide audience. So there's more than likely grandmas out there going, he seems like such a nice guy. What a funny guy.
guess so.
And it's gonna be like when, you know, growing up and getting older and go looking at old Judas Priest videos and seeing Rob Halford and going, holy crap, like it was right there.
Yeah, sure.
Like, there was no ambiguity what was going on with Rob Halford, but yet you have like Heavy Metal Parking Lot where they're like, oh man, you know, all these like teased hair women who are like, he's so hot. Oh, I hope I can get backstage and
yeah.
But you see like the Rhinestone Trucker outfit, and it's all there. It's all there on screen, but you know, put together in a way like, oh well, he's a trucker. Why? I mean, so
and people
it's
say that about Liberace. You know,
like,
supposedly, little old ladies in the middle of the country were watching Liberace and going, "Oh, he seems so nice," and were completely unaware of the gay subtext of Liberace.
I think at the time
sometimes
that
don't
happened
know
a decent amount. Again, it is like, and it's just. It's weird that also, you know, a lot of the progress that's happened, a lot of shows that are out now. Now think of it, how long it's been since 76 and how fairly recently it's okay just to have a show where people are just being themselves.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about and sad. And like, you know, I'm glad that we have what we have now. I mean, you know, I didn't have to deal as much with any of that. So I'm speaking from a, you know, place of, I guess, a little bit of privilege, but it's, you know, seeing an actor like Paul Lynde and wishing maybe they'd lived long enough to see, hey, look, you don't have to be necessarily the buffoon. You can actually be real and be a person. Now, hopefully with better writers, if that happened.
It's a really solid point. Well, actually, let me tell you, there was Glee actually did an experiment where they, for their Christmas special, they tried to recreate a 1970s style Christmas special. And the weirdest thing about it, you know, although they did have a gay couple hosting it, that was the one thing that was different from in the 70s. However, it was a big failure because the jokes, this is not me trying to be funny. This is me reporting to you. The jokes were just as lame as they would have been in the 70s. And so it didn't work. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't funny.
Was it, or was it just as authentic? That's what you have to ask yourself.
That's
now.
Actually, if the idea was we're going to have lame jokes like we would in the 70s, then that turned out to be an artistic failure because it still made it painful to watch, and that's no fun because you want to watch something that you want to watch, right? And that's, you know, so
I don't know.
Although
we need to watch this.
Yeah,
we scarred Julia with this, so there you go.
Yeah, I'm so thankful, and let's all take a break and reconvene in just a moment with our second Halloween special of 2018. So I'll see you in a little bit.
Bye.
Bye.